Beneath our feet, a realm unseen and often forgotten, lies a world of raw, untamed power. It's a world of immense, almost unimaginable power, simmering just below the surface, patiently lying in wait. We walk upon a fragile crust, a thin veneer of solid ground. This crust is floating on a sea of molten rock, a dynamic and ever-shifting landscape of magma. Tectonic plates, colossal slabs of rock that form the very foundation of our continents, grind against one another with relentless force, building up unimaginable stress and pressure over vast stretches of time. Most of the time, this immense energy is released gradually, manifesting as tiny tremors, subtle vibrations that often go completely unnoticed by the world above. But sometimes, the pressure builds relentlessly for centuries, even millennia, accumulating an almost unfathomable amount of energy that must, inevitably and eventually, be released in a cataclysmic burst. We build our lives, our cities, and our societies on these very fault lines, often remaining blissfully oblivious to the titanic struggle and the immense forces churning deep below our feet. We are in many ways living precariously on the back of a sleeping giant, a geological behemoth, and we can never truly be certain when that giant might stir from its slumber, disturbed by the pressures within. When it does, it will unleash its pent-up power with devastating consequences. This is the fundamental force locked deep within the planet's crust. A force that, over eons, has relentlessly raised mountains to the sky and patiently carved deep canyons into the very bones of the Earth. The earthquakes we experience are merely fleeting whispers, faint echoes of what the planet is truly capable of unleashing. What if the giant truly awakens from its long sleep, releasing the accumulated stress and pressure of 1,000 years, or even more, all at once, in a single devastating event? It would be a day when the very ground beneath our feet, the foundation of our existence, transforms into our greatest and most formidable enemy. To truly grasp the magnitude, the sheer scale of what we're discussing requires a shift in perspective. We need to move beyond our everyday experiences and enter a realm of unimaginable forces. Of such an event, a magnitude 10 earthquake, consider the scale we use to measure it, the tools and methods scientists employ to quantify these cataclysmic events. The Richter and moment magnitude scales, the benchmarks by which we understand the power unleashed by earthquakes, are logarithmic, meaning the numbers don't increase in a straight line. Instead, they represent an exponential jump in power. Each whole number means 10 times more shaking. The ground moves 10 times more violently with each increase on the scale. A magnitude 7 shakes 10 times more than a 6, a significant difference that translates to vastly different levels of destruction, but releases 32 times more energy. The energy released doesn't just increase linearly, it explodes upward. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan, a devastating event that reshaped coastlines and triggered a massive tsunami, was a magnitude 9.1, an almost unimaginable force of nature unleashed upon the world. The 1960 Valdivia quake in Chile, still the largest earthquake ever recorded, a 9.5. A benchmark of seismic power that we use to try and understand the upper limits of what our planet is capable of. These were planetary scale events, impacting not just the immediate region, but sending ripples throughout the entire globe. But a magnitude 10 would be in a league of its own, a hypothetical event that pushes the boundaries of our understanding. It would release 32 times more energy, an amount so vast it's difficult to comprehend, than the Valdivia quake, making the largest earthquake in recorded history seem almost small in comparison. That's the energy of over 2 trillion tons of TNT, a truly staggering amount of explosive power. More than the US consumes in a year, an amount of energy that dwarfs even the largest industrial nation's yearly consumption. Such a quake would physically alter the planet itself. The very shape of the Earth could be changed by such an event. The Valdivia quake made the Earth's axis wobble, a subtle but measurable shift in the planet's rotation. A magnitude 10 would do so on a much greater scale. The wobble would be far more pronounced, potentially affecting the planet's climate and weather patterns. The fault required would be enormous, a geological scar stretching across vast distances. Perhaps 1,000 miles long, a continuous fracture in the Earth's crust of epic proportions, rupturing in its entirety. The entire fault line would give way in a single catastrophic event. The rupture would tear along the fault, a geological zipper unzipping at incredible speed. At miles per second lasting many minutes, the ground would be in constant motion for an extended period. The ground would not just shake, the very earth beneath our feet would be transformed. It would heave and roll in colossal waves. The surface of the planet would undulate like the ocean during a storm. This is not just a regional disaster confined to a single area or country, but a planetary event. An event that would affect every corner of the globe. The consequences would be felt everywhere. A truly global catastrophe, the likes of which humanity has never witnessed. Imagine an earthquake so powerful, so immense, that it dwarfs anything we've ever recorded. A magnitude 10 earthquake to you would turn solid ground into a churning, violent sea. A terrifying phenomenon known as liquefaction. The very earth beneath our feet would lose its solidity. Buildings would sink, roads would buckle, and the landscape would transform into a treacherous, unstable mire. The shaking would be a continuous convulsion, not a tremor, an unrelenting assault that throws everything into chaos. It would be a seismic storm, a cataclysmic event that redefines our understanding of the planet's power. The ground could heave by tens of feet in seconds, an instantaneous and terrifying uplift that reshapes the terrain in the blink of an eye. Imagine the force required to lift entire sections of land so dramatically, the sheer energy unleashed from deep within the earth, opening chasms and swallowing everything above. These aren't mere cracks, they are gaping wounds in the earth's surface. Buildings, vehicles, even entire neighborhoods could vanish into these newly formed abysses, lost forever to the planet's fury. The sound, a deafening, grinding roar, would be unlike anything humans have heard, a symphony of destruction, a cacophony of the earth tearing itself apart. It would be a sound that burrows into your very soul, a constant reminder of the planet's raw power. It would be unlike anything humans have ever experienced. In the epicentral region, destruction would be absolute, a zone of total annihilation, where nothing remains untouched. The landscape would be unrecognizable, a testament to the earthquake's unimaginable force. Mountains crumbling, landslides burying valleys, the landscape rewritten in minutes. Entire ecosystems would be wiped out, and geological formations would be forever altered. Liquefaction would turn solid ground to quicksand, toppling buildings and infrastructure. The very foundations of our civilization would be undermined, leaving behind a scene of utter devastation. The seismic waves would radiate globally, causing damage thousands of miles away. Even regions far removed from the epicenter would feel the Earth's wrath. Skyscrapers would sway, bridges strain, and older structures collapse even on the far side of the planet. The earthquake's reach would be truly global, a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our world. The fault rupture would leave a permanent scar, new cliffs stretching for hundreds of miles, a visible testament to the immense forces at play, a scar that would remain for millennia. Cities built across the fault would be torn in two, permanently displaced. The urban landscape would be irrevocably altered, a stark reminder of the Earth's power to reshape our world. The Earth's crust would reveal its true, violent nature. No corner of the world would be untouched. The planet would bear the marks of this cataclysmic event for generations to come. If the quake strikes beneath the sea, an even greater threat emerges. The sea floor could be thrust upwards by over 60 feet, displacing a staggering volume of water. This would create a tsunami of unimaginable proportions, waves radiating at jetliner speeds. In deep ocean, the waves might be small, but as they approach land, they grow exponentially. The resulting wall of water could be over 100 feet high, surging inland for miles. Coastal cities would be erased, ports and harbors obliterated. The inundation would last for hours, with successive waves pushing salt water deep inland. The tsunami's reach would be global, crossing oceans in hours. Even distant shores would face catastrophic flooding. The oceans would become agents of devastation, connecting every continent in shared catastrophe. Also, modern infrastructure would be severed in an instant. Buildings would collapse, bridges and highways become twisted wreckage, isolating millions. Power stations would crumble, plunging entire regions into darkness. Fires would rage unchecked, merging into firestorms that make rescue impossible. Industrial facilities would fail. Nuclear plants could face meltdowns, chemical plants would spill toxins. Each failure would trigger another, compounding the disaster. Clean water, communication and sanitation would vanish, leading to disease and chaos. The systems that define our civilization are also its greatest vulnerability. A magnitude 10 quake would not just break buildings, it would break the systems that allow us to live together. Survivors would be left in a landscape of ruin, cut off from help. The world as we know it would be shattered. The immediate loss of life would be staggering, millions gone in minutes. Collapsing buildings, fires, landslides and tsunamis would leave few survivors in the hardest hit regions. Entire cities would become mass graves, populations erased in moments. Survivors would be trapped, injured and isolated with no way for help to arrive. The psychological toll would be immense as communities are cut off and hope fades. The global response would be overwhelmed, ports and airports gone, communication down. Food, water and medicine would become precious commodities. Governments could collapse, markets spiral, and supply chains break. A global refugee crisis would follow as millions seek safety and sustenance. The humanitarian crisis would challenge the very foundations of international cooperation. The world would be forced to confront a disaster beyond anything in history. The impact would ripple into the atmosphere. Infrasound waves would disturb the ionosphere, disrupting satellite communications and GPS worldwide. Massive fires would inject smoke and ash into the sky, blocking sunlight and dropping temperatures. Crop failures and food shortages could follow, even far from the disaster zone. Landslides and ocean upheaval would release methane and other gases, altering climate patterns. Dust and aerosols would circle the globe for months, subtly changing weather and creating vivid sunsets. Nuclear meltdowns could send radioactive clouds across continents, contaminating land and sea. The air would carry the disaster's signature everywhere. The atmosphere itself would become a vector for long-lasting harm. Despite the terror, humanity is not helpless. Our intelligence and innovation are our greatest strengths. We can't stop such an earthquake, but we can mitigate its impact. Modern seismology identifies high-risk zones, allowing for stricter building codes. Flexible buildings and base isolators can help structures survive. Early warning systems provide precious seconds to shut down infrastructure and save lives. Public education and preparedness are vital. Emergency kits, safe spots and regular drills save lives. Drones and satellites can aid rescue and coordinate global response. New materials and construction techniques offer hope for more resilient cities. Our survival depends on understanding and respecting these forces. We must build a world that can bend, not break, when the Earth moves. In the face of a global catastrophe, our divisions would seem insignificant. A magnitude 10 quake would be a shared experience demanding unprecedented international cooperation. All nations would need to pool resources and expertise for rescue and recovery. This shared vulnerability could unite humanity as never before. The disaster would erase borders, reminding us we are all inhabitants of a dynamic planet. The challenge would be to maintain that unity and rebuild our global community. The ultimate lesson is humility and respect for the Earth. We are not its masters, but its inhabitants. Our future depends on learning, preparing, and building a civilization strong enough to endure. The future of humanity may depend not on conquering nature, but on living in harmony with it, united as one people on one planet.